Welcome to Cat Has Questions, curiosity, stories, and the strange corners of everyday life. Hello, I'm Kat. Okay, guys, so last night I was in my closet, or what I like to call the podclaw, because I literally record in my closet between my clothes. And I'm currently trying to go through my clothes, trying to make my wardrobe have a little bit less just clutter in it, whatever. But I'm going through my clothes last night, and there's a spider literally just crawling around on one of my shirts. I feel like I'm a pretty clean person, but I run to my bathroom, I come back to try to get something to get the spider, and it was gone. So then tonight when I came in here to, start to record, I'm I literally cannot sit on the floor of my closet knowing I basically have to sit in the exact spot where that spider probably fell. I shook all my clothes around, couldn't find it. Then I see something across the closet near my shoes now. And I'm I can't record in here. I can't sleep in here if I know the spider could potentially then crawl into my bedroom. So I probably spent 30 minutes before recording this just trying to kill this spider, which I got it, but now I'm a little sweaty for this. But anyways, how about we get into today's story? Today's story isn't spooky because of ghosts. It's spooky because of what we do have. Clear evidence, a visible person, and somehow still no idea who they are. Today, we are talking about the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. She made it home that night. She talked to the people she always talked to. She got ready for the next day. Everything about it was routine. By the next morning, she was gone. No signs of a struggle, no clear disturbance, no indication that anything had gone wrong inside her home. But her car was missing, and when that car was found, it came with one of the most frustrating pieces of evidence in modern investigations, because someone had been seen driving it, just long enough to be captured on camera, and just out of view, enough to never be identified. There's something about cases like this that feel different. The ones where nothing dramatic happens first, no warning, no escalation, just routine. And then a break in that routine that doesn't make sense. Because it's easy to imagine yourself in that space. A normal night, a plan for the next morning. You go to sleep expecting the day to start the way it always does. And then it doesn't. Here's what we know. Jennifer Kesse was born May 20th, 1981 in New Jersey. At some point, her family relocated to Florida, and she was a graduate of Vivian Gaither High School in Tampa, Florida. Jennifer then attended the University of Central Florida in Orlando and graduated in 2003 with a degree in finance. At the time of her disappearance, she was working as a finance manager at Central Florida Investments timeshare company in Ocoee and had recently bought a condo in Orlando. In 2006, Jennifer Kesse was 24 years old. She lived in Orlando, Florida. She had a full-time job and a steady routine. By all accounts, she was dependable, the kind of person who showed up, the kind of person people expected to hear from. She had just returned from a trip and was settling back into work and daily life. The weekend prior, Jennifer vacationed with her boyfriend on St. Croix, Virgin Islands. After returning from the trip Sunday night, she spent the night at her boyfriend's home and then drove straight to work on the morning of Monday, January 23rd, 2006. By all accounts, Jennifer had a normal Monday at work. Nothing out of the ordinary, even the night before she disappeared. It was just normal. At 6 p.m., Jennifer leaves work and calls her parents. This is the last time her family hears from her, and also the first time she arrives home since having left for her vacation. At 10 p.m., Jennifer and her boyfriend talk on the phone and say their goodnights. He is the last known person to speak with her before her disappearance. Nothing about these conversations suggested urgency. Nothing had hinted that something was going to change, and that's what anchors this case. There is no clear moment where things start to go wrong. The next morning, January 24th, Jennifer doesn't show up for work. At first, the absence could be explained. Maybe she overslept, missed an alarm, maybe her phone was off. But as time passed, concern builds quickly. Between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., Jennifer's boyfriend, whom she would normally call but did not, calls her on the way to work, but it goes directly to voicemail. He chalks it up to a meeting she had mentioned to him. His subsequent attempts are also unsuccessful. Her employer contacts her parents around 11 a.m. due to her uncharacteristic no-call, no-show behavior. The parents set out for a 2-hour drive from their home to hers. Jennifer's parents call her boyfriend to tell him that she failed to show up to work. Jennifer's parents immediately noticed that her car was missing from her apartment, but saw nothing out of the ordinary in her home. A wet towel and clothes laid out, among other things, suggested that she had showered, dressed, and prepared for work that morning. Just signs she had gotten ready for the day. Friends and family distributed flyers about Jennifer that evening, and the Orlando Police Department organized search parties on foot and on horseback, as well as by boat, helicopter, car, and ATV. So they were definitely looking for her extensively that night. Since her car is gone, that's the point where this kind of shifts, because there are only two really possibilities. Either she left on her own, or she didn't leave at all. With no signs of forced entry or a struggle, investigators initially theorized that on the morning of January 24th, Kesse left her apartment for work and locked her front door, only to be abducted at some point while walking toward or getting into her car. So kind of like someone interfered her in between her apartment and her car. Around 3 to 3:15 on the 24th, Jennifer's parents and brother arrive at her apartment because, as we talked about, they were concerned. The parents got the call at 11. They arrived at her apartment at 3. They find evidence that she had been home that morning, and they call the police. As Jennifer is an adult, police initially say that she may have left on her own volition, which, her car's missing. Nothing looks disturbed. It's a possibility, but it shouldn't be a conclusion that we jump to right away. By 5 to 7 p.m., that's when the family and friends saturated the area with flyers that showed Jennifer's picture. The police send a detective to her home and begin interrogations and searches. At first, there's a version of this that feels simple. She leaves for work, something happens later, but that assumption starts to weaken because there's no clear evidence she ever made it to her car willingly. No confirmed sighting of her leaving, no timeline that clearly places her beyond that space. If you stop the story there, it sounds like a missing persons case that just didn't resolve. But then the car is found. On January 26th, around 8:10 a.m., Jennifer's black 2004 Chevy Malibu was found parked at another apartment complex about a mile from her own. A tenant of a nearby complex informs the police that it has sat abandoned in front of their apartment for several days. Police confirm that it is Kesse's 2004 Chevy Malibu. The vehicle is photographed and taken for forensic examination. Police examine local surveillance footage, and this is the most chilling part of the case. They discover an unidentified person parking her car and walking away from it at about noon, the day she went missing. So it was at this complex that was about 1.2 miles away from her apartment. None of her family or friends recognized the person whose physical features were not clear in the video, despite the extensive camera coverage and multiple snapshots of the person of interest. The complex fencing surrounding the lot obscured the suspect's face. And it's crazy. It's every single shot, their face is blocked somehow, which is just honestly terrible luck. This footage should break the case. This should be the moment everything starts to come together. But instead, it becomes one of the most frustrating details. Because as the person walks past a series of fences, their face is consistently blocked. Frame after frame, obstructed. Not once. Not clearly, not enough. Just enough visibility to confirm someone is there. Not enough to identify who they are. And that's the moment the case turns. Because now there's evidence. Clear evidence that someone else was involved. But it doesn't answer the question. It reinforces it. The FBI was called in to help determine the person's size and gender, but could only say that the person stood between 5'3" and 5'5". They even had NASA come in and help, and they helped enhance the video to see if they could help identify the suspect. A search dog tracked a scent that led from her parked car back at her apartment complex, prompting detectives to believe that the suspect might have returned to her apartment's parking lot after abandoning the car. No other evidence was found along the route. A forensic examination of the car yielded little in the way of evidence, only a latent print and a small DNA fiber. Investigators deduced that the car had been wiped down. Valuables were left inside the car, which caused detectives to rule out robbery as a motive. However, the following items are known to be missing: her cell phone, her iPod, her keys, her purse, her briefcase, and the outfit she was wearing. Authorities were unable to ping her cell phone because its power remained off. Her bank account keycard has not been used since her disappearance. As is customary, investigators first questioned Jennifer's immediate family and close friends to see if any of them could have a motive to abduct her. Her ex-boyfriend recently was upset and wished to get back together with her. He was interrogated, but it was concluded that he had nothing to do with her abduction. Her current boyfriend was also questioned, but was also eliminated as a suspect. At the time of her disappearance, Jennifer's condo complex had been undergoing a major expansion, and so there were many workers on site regularly. Jennifer had told family members on several occasions that the construction workers constantly catcalled, whistled at her, and harassed her. Due to a language barrier, apparently, investigators were unable to interrogate many of them. Apparently, they couldn't get a translator, but no other leads regarding them were discovered. Detectives then turned their focus to her place of employment and began questioning her coworkers. Her computer was taken in for forensic examination, which revealed that a manager where she worked desired a relationship with her, but that she had refused his advances because she opposed workplace romances. Detectives interviewed this manager multiple times, but ultimately ruled him out as a suspect. Investigators and Jennifer's friends and family remain open to the theory that she fell victim to human trafficking, but consider it less likely than others. In May 2007, Jennifer's company offered a $1 million reward for information leading to her whereabouts, with a July 4th deadline on the stipulation that she had to be alive. And this was never claimed, which is pretty telling. A $5,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts of her remains is still available through Central Florida Crime Line. The case received state and national press attention at the time of her disappearance. On May 2nd, 2008, the Florida House of Representatives unanimously passed Senate Bill 502, the Jennifer Kesse and Tiffany Sessions Missing Persons Act, to reform how missing persons cases are handled in Florida. As of June 10, 2010, the FBI took over the case from the Orlando Police Department. It did so at the urging of Police Chief Val Demings. In 2018, Jennifer's parents filed suit against the Orlando Police Department to gain access to police records of the case. The lawsuit was settled in March of 2019, allowing the family access to 16,000 pages of records. In December of 2022, it was reported that investigation into Kesse's disappearance had been turned over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, Cold Case Unit. The FDLE intends to interview people Kesse's law enforcement team has already identified as possible suspects or people who may have valuable information, and to retest evidence that Jennifer's family says has never been retested. Jennifer is still considered missing and endangered by the Orlando Police Department, FBI, Orange County Sheriff's Office, FDLE, and Interpol. Kesse also remains on the FBI's most wanted/missing list. On May 20th of 2025, coinciding with Kesse's 44th birthday, the FDLE announced that they had gone through thousands of pages of documents and had also spoken to about 45 people since the case was turned over to their unit in December of 2022. They also announced that they had identified several persons of interest in Kesse's disappearance and have stated that the case is no longer considered cold. So this just happened last year, almost a year ago. The FDLE also said that artificial intelligence may potentially be able to identify the person of interest seen on camera shortly after Kesse disappeared. That's kind of interesting to think about, like AI being able to help generate maybe what this person looks like. On October 21st, 2025, it was announced by Jennifer Kesse's father, Drew Kesse, that the FDLE had found DNA within evidence that had not been previously tested, which contradicts a previous statement by the Orlando Police Department that the only DNA that had been found was on the steering wheel at the time of Jennifer's disappearance. Drew Kesse also stated that the person of interest list had been greatly reduced, and they now have a better chance at finding Jennifer than in previous years. And that, like I said, was really soon. That was October of 2025. So there's definitely potential that more is going to come out in this case, and I will obviously update you if it does, at least for sure on my Patreon in a short little clip. So as of today, No arrests have been made, and Kesse's whereabouts remain unknown. On October 21st, 2025, Drew Kesse announced that a documentary team would be working on a television series relating to Jennifer's disappearance. The network providing the documentary will be announced in the near future. And the documentary is expected to be released in early 2026, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Jennifer didn't disappear in the middle of something chaotic. She disappeared in the middle of something ordinary. A routine night, a planned morning, a life that was moving forward exactly as expected. And whatever happened in a space so small that it almost went unnoticed entirely. Between a front door and a car. Between leaving and arriving. Between being seen and not being seen at all. And even now, there's just enough evidence to know something happened, and not enough to fully understand what it is. If you have information related to the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse, you are encouraged to contact authorities in Orlando, Florida. And if you're listening to this, just remember, sometimes the most unsettling cases aren't the ones hidden in the dark. They're the ones caught in plain sight, where we can see someone clearly and still have no idea who we're looking at. Thanks for listening to Kat Has Questions. If you liked this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves a good spiral. See you next week.